I'd like to introduce AJ. AJ Rounds is a co-founder here at RevRoad. He's one of the 6 who started this crazy, awesome venture. And he oversees marketing. He's the CMO here. I like to say he's the CMO by day and a closet limo driver by night, because he is. That's one of his hobbies. He likes to buy limos and then delight and astound all kinds of people by giving them free rides in his limo. So when my son went to the missionary training center, he offered to take him in a limo, which was kind of unique. He'll take all kinds of high school kids out on their dates in the limo just to create joy and happiness in their lives. And so that's a fun fact that you now know about AJ. And if you're lucky enough to get his card, you might even be able to ask him for a ride sometime. So with that, let's welcome AJ to the stage. Come on, AJ.
Thank you, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Cool, well now you know your hookup for a really long and cool experience, right? A little too much information there, but love it. Today we're going to talk about marketing, and specifically marketing magic. Before we do that though, really quick, if you want to share what you're learning today, it's hashtag RevU, okay? On all your social media channels, all of them, okay? Share, hint, hint, share. And then, let's see, the other thing I wanted to talk about was if you want to take photos of any of the slides, feel free. That's what they're here for, and we want you to take back whatever you need. We will have a handout for some of these things, but take any photos that you want. So, marketing magic. It's only magic if you're doing it right, right? So let's go to the, here we go. Let me grab the clicker here. Go to the next slide. So marketing is really about making your company shine like a star, okay? And if you're targeting your products and services to the right market, you will be a star and you can beat any competition that's out there. So what I want to do is show a quick clip about a company who did this, a little edgy, a little fun, but it worked for their target market and it took their company to new levels. Go ahead and we'll play that.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop-up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you.
All right, so there you have it, Dollar Shave Club. So it's okay to be a little edgy and a little unique as long as it works with your target audience, okay, your target market. So let's talk about a couple of campaigns that were amazing in marketing. The first one right here are some rocks. Anyone recognize these rocks? What are they? They're rocks, you guys, they're rocks. They are plentiful in Africa and they are cheap, they're nothing. But De Beers launched one of the most successful campaigns in the 70s where if you didn't propose to your future spouse with a diamond, your love wasn't forever, right? And because of that, now diamonds are still one of the most highly profitable products in the market. So De Beers, rocks, marketing, okay? The next one, also a rock. Gary Dahl in 1975 said, hey, I want to market something that people will use, but and everyone loves pets, but they're just so high maintenance, and pets are so grubby and annoying, and they're a lot of work. but rocks aren't. So he created the pet rock, marketed it for 6 months, and made $15 million. The pet rock, okay? So if marketing can do this for rocks, think what marketing can do for your company. So let's take a quiz, a quick slogan quiz, okay? We talked about how a diamond is forever with the De Beers campaign. So there are a few companies out there. Let's see, USA Today did a survey about, I don't know, I think it was last year where they surveyed about 5,000 people and said, what are the slogans you remember the most from products you've used? So we're going to take a quick quiz. Raise your hand if you know it, and we're going to see if you know some of these companies from their slogans, okay? Ready for the first one? Ready for the first one? Yeah. Okay. Raise your hand. Finger licking good. Right here. KFC. Katie may or may not have a prize for you if you answer. Right here in the white. KFC. Okay? And there's 6 here. Let's see if you can get the next one. Every kiss begins with? K. K. Good job. We got some kisses for you. Chocolate, of course. Okay? Every kiss begins with K. Here we go. The next one. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on? Geico, car insurance. There you go. Awesome. It's a coupon for 20%, not 15. Go figure, right? Okay. Snap, crackle, pop. Over here in the blue. Gary. Rice Krispies. We got some Rice Krispies for you. Enjoy. Taste the rainbow. Right here. Skittles. Go Cougars / Aggies. Okay. That's right. Skittles. Awesome. Last one. Here we go. Melts in your mouth, not in your hands. M&M's, my favorite one of all. Nice job, you guys. 100%. You passed the slogan quiz. Well done. Thanks, Katie. So today we're going to talk about marketing, how to make your company memorable, and magic, just like we talked about. So here's our RevRoad marketing team. As you can see, we're wearing swag from a lot of our roadie companies. This is Allegra, Zion, and the other team members have some swag on too. Because we love doing marketing for our roadie companies, for our portfolio companies. We call them roadies. So in July, you guys met Tyron, and he did a fantastic job with video, talking about the story, and McKay and Dalton as well. But today you're going to meet some amazing people. The rest of my team, along with myself, we have Katie Knuckles, straight from Texas and BYU. Raise your hand. She's amazing at graphic design, layout, art. She can make anyone look like a star. And then Rebecca, who can write anything for anyone, make them look great on paper or on the screen. Probably knows every definition in the dictionary, okay? She is amazing, and she's our public relations writer, editor. And then Scott, he's our in-house, go ahead and raise your hand, Scott, in-house customer experience designer. And he creates websites as well, and he is fantastic. So you're going to hear from them in just a minute, but together, marketing is awesome, and we're having a good time, and you should love it too. Isn't marketing the most fun part of your business, right? Shake your head, yes, right? Okay, but it's overwhelming, and it can be. So we're going to talk about how to break it down into bite-sized pieces, okay? So you're going to create marketing magic today in 4 steps. First, know your audience, okay? Second, craft your branding and messaging for the audience, okay? Third, get creative for your branding and messaging. And fourth, very important, execute. It's all ideas until you execute, okay? So let's jump right into it. But before we do this, we have to make an assumption, okay? Assumption number 1, very important, is that you're solving a real problem, okay, in the market. And we get lots of entrepreneurs that come into RevRoad and say, yeah, I got this great idea. It's super awesome. Everyone's going to buy it. But maybe one person in the world would enjoy it. So it has to solve a real problem, and there has to be a willingness to pay from the market, okay? And if you want to know more about strategy and about tactics and things, go back to the RevU a few months ago with Bart and with Seth. Shout out to those guys. They did a great job. And then also stay for the event at noon with Sid Tetro from the Women's Council. She's a product marketing expert, so she'll help us understand more of those problems in the market that we can help solve. So that's our assumption. So let's get to know our target market, okay? We're going to go through 3 different messages, marketing messages, and you guys tell me, as a group, who you think these messages are targeted towards, okay? So the first one is Dove, It's a deodorant. Who is this for? What do you think? Just shout it out. It's okay. Women, I'm hearing that. 30 plus, okay. Anything else we could glean from her? Maybe active, right? Anything else? Maybe kids, maybe not. Okay? So that's the target market for Dove, all right? What about this one? A little trickier. Kids, okay. But what is that depicting? What event in history? Muhammad Ali, right? So it's also targeting their parents who feel nostalgia towards Legos, right? And Muhammad Ali. Okay? What about this one? It's my favorite one. I'm the target market, right. So men that love fast cars, that look awesome and have all the latest and greatest and upgrades, okay? And there's a few of us out here, right? Am I the only car aficionado? Okay, we got another one. We got a few. Okay, good. In the back, yes. I'm glad we got a few of them. So marketing messages are targeted specifically and made specifically for their target audiences. And you have to do that on purpose. It doesn't just happen by accident. So let's talk about what do we need to know about our audience, okay? So we need to know who they are, where they are, and things like age are important, background, education, technical literacy, of course, where they're at, anything that would be helpful to form. You want to form a person in front of you and know exactly who you're talking to, okay? Why do they care? Now, it can't be a problem in the market that's just a small mosquito bite. It's got to be a big challenge that they're concerned about, and that's what you're solving for them, okay? What do they want in your product or service? We need to understand and define that. And then, how do they use products that are like yours in the absence of yours? Because that'll be important, because then you'll know how they're going to use your product or service, okay? So, how can you get this information? Well, there's several ways. Google is our best friend first, right? Competitor research is awesome. You can do user interviews to interview how they're using products like yours or yours right now. Go to online forums that deal with that same, your same product category. One of my favorites is lurk online, which sounds a little risque. It's not, right? It's the technical term for just watching to see what people are saying online. Social media is helpful. Then you can engage, interact. Surveys, a little more official, all right? Conferences that deal with that product or service that are in the market, in that same market, are super helpful. And then one of my favorites, Darren's too, sales calls, right? To know the objections and how to respond to them. That's fantastic market intel about who your audience is, okay? So once we know more about our audience, then we move on to branding and messaging. And I'm going to invite Rebecca to come to the stage and talk to us about how to make our companies look awesome in messaging.
Thank you so much, AJ. I notice there's some people wandering around. Go ahead and take your seats. We're not offended by moving around. So back to the audience. I think that was a great example, to get started about building your audience, or knowing your audience. And of all the work I've ever done with marketing, that really needs to be your laser focus, is that audience. It doesn't matter what you're saying if you're not saying it to the right person. So let's just move right on to branding and messaging. Now, for the purposes of today, we're not talking about a brand as in the logo you put on your cow to differentiate it from the other cows, even though that might be part of it. We're talking about branding as the public's experience of your brand, what they think, what they feel, what they know about your company. So let's move on. Right now, I want you guys to think about one of your favorite brands, maybe two of your favorite brands that you really identify with. For me, I was thinking about it yesterday on my drive home, and Mustang is one of my brands. It has always been. I used to drive a Mustang. I've dated men who drove Mustangs, not just for that, but I really identify with that brand. That is kind of one of my tribes. So keeping that brand in mind that you're thinking of, imagine the sense of belonging that it creates in you. The best brands make their customers feel like they're part of something bigger, and probably your brand has done that for you. Now, we love the idea of a brand as a story. And one of the companies we have here at RevRoad has actually done an amazing job of this. I'd like to tell you a little bit about them. Is anybody here from Momni? Judy? Oh, you guys are the best. And fortunately, Momni came to us with a lot of this work already done, which just made it so much easier for us to help them, grow even bigger. So here's the story. About a year ago, their founder, Kamral Larson, learned about the global childcare crisis. And if you haven't heard of that, unfortunately, some women in developing countries can't afford any childcare at all for their children. They actually have to drug them or tie them up when these women go to work so that when they get home from work, they have food for their children. So Carmel set out to solve this problem, or to at least help solve this problem. As she was building her brand, she also learned that elephant herds out in the wild do something amazing. Mostly these herds are made of the female elephants. And if there's an elephant who's sick or very young or very old, these elephants circle together, trunks out, to protect whoever's inside that circle. And so Carmel realized, this is what Momni is about. It's about females, women circling up to help protect the children. So who here has seen the Momni logo? You guys? Awesome. Oh, I think Katie's got it here. You'll see her in just a second. But actually, the M in their logo is in the shape of an elephant trunk. And, that's just one of the many ways that Momni has built their brand story. And this has come out in interviews you guys might have seen on Fox 13 recently, the cover of the Deseret News. They were even in a Dr. Phil segment. So all of the work they have done, and especially the brand story, really unites people around the company. So good job. Way to go, Momni. So you might be asking, as a startup owner, how do you get started on creating a brand, creating your messaging? Let me skip one of these. All right, thank you. So the best way that I like to think about it is messaging is the words that you're going to say about your company. And what's a good way to get to those words? Well, go back to your homework. First of all the things you know about your product from sales and strategy. And then all of the things that you learned about your audience that AJ was talking about. So the messaging is the connection between your product and your audience. And that's kind of the start of a messaging process, is figuring out exactly what you want to say, or that's like the textbook definition. But I like to think of the messaging strategy as really figuring out who you are as a brand. So next, let's move on to how to accomplish that core messaging strategy. Now, I want to warn you ahead of time, this can take like a week at least, several team members, everybody's buy-in. We're going to go through it in like 2 minutes, but recognize that it's a long process. So first off, voice and tone. As our wonderful CEO likes to say, your vibe attracts your tribe. Now, my tribe is Mustang. Think about, what tribes you might fit into. So what's the voice of Mustang? When I think of voice, I think if they were a character, who would their character be who is speaking? And I think of, the Lone Star Ranger, maybe, kind of cowboy type, independent, very American, wind blowing through his hair. And and that is the voice of Mustang. And then next is the tone. So how does this person speak? For Mustang, I think there's some cool nonchalance, some not really playfulness, but some fun and some sense of adventure. But other tones that brands can take are perhaps cheerful or silly or sarcastic. Maybe the Dollar Shave guy was a little sarcastic. So whatever voice and tone you have, it's a good idea to stick with that and really adopt that as part of your company. So once you have that set down, you're starting to create some vocabulary, really thinking a lot about consistency. So move on to positioning. And this is, yet again, we go back to strategy for this. What I'm really talking about is your unique value proposition and how you're going to talk about it. So what I like to do is write a unique value proposition that's 15 words, one that's 30 words, one that's about 100 words, just so you and your team can always go back to this and pull from that anytime you need to talk about what your company is. Next up, pain points. So this is where you're writing the exact words that say how you're solving your customer's problem. Goes back to a lot of the audience research. If you have different audience segments, it can be a good idea to do this for each of those segments. Finally, we'll move on to proofs. So what I mean by that is, in the pain points, you're telling people maybe in a sentence how you're going to solve their problem. And the proofs are, how are you going to do that? How are you going to convince them? So what I like to put in there in this kind of core messaging document that I'm creating is maybe some rebuttals that you've heard from your sales calls, some product information, when you know what your biggest selling points are. This is where you're going to write about how you talk about those details. Statistics about your industry, perhaps. Another of our roadies, ProLink, has done a great job of compiling industry specifics. Industry statistics about esports, and that's really helped them grow their brand before investors, before customers, across the board. So I highly recommend that. And the last thing that can be, or one of the last things that can be a great proof, is testimonials. And here's another place I just really want to call out Momney. They have some great testimonials from Momneys around the country, and they keep track of those. They use those in their social media, in their presentations, all over the place. So that's really the value of a core messaging strategy and a document that you can use for yourself, share with your team, all of that stuff. So I have been involved in words throughout my career, but I have very quickly learned that the words only matter if they come in a beautiful package. And that's where I want to invite my colleague Katie up to the stage. She's all about making things beautiful.
Awesome. Okay. Am I on? Oh. Okay. Thanks, Rebecca. That was a great introduction to branding, really talking about why it's important to dig your teeth into it earlier on rather than later. I know it can be hard to think about at the beginning, but it will definitely be worth it if you do it. So what is the key to good branding? It's the same as the key to dieting or the key to exercise or even the key to potty training your puppy. Consistency. Okay, this is so important. Sometimes consistency can be really hard, like when you're dieting. But in this case, it's actually pretty simple. So what does consistency look like in a brand in a startup, which is probably where a lot of you guys are? So first, it looks like using the same logo. I'm just going to preface this by saying that maybe you have like an inverted version of your logo. It's white, so you can use it on dark backgrounds. And maybe you have a stacked version of your logo to use in different ratio spaces. That's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you have a Dropbox folder somewhere with like 6 kind of different variations of your logo, and you just use them interchangeably and without real intention. Don't do that. Branding is generally supposed to be a monogamous relationship, so stick with the right one, okay? Another thing you want to be careful not to do is to like flip your logo upside down or squish it or squash it to fit in the right space or cram more words into it just because it seems convenient at the time. Be really intentional about what you do with it, and that's going to protect your brand's integrity. Okay, so the second thing it looks like is using specific fonts. You don't have to go crazy here. This could be as simple as finding a really nice Google font that you can use for free. Maybe it's something like Roboto or Nanido Sans, Source Sans Pro. There are a lot of really great options there. If you use the same fonts across your different materials, like your website, your product packaging, and your other printed materials, that's really going to help start to build your brand and give you some of that brand equity that you want. So you all know about color palettes. You've probably established some colors for your brand, and if so, that's awesome. If you haven't, maybe it's a good time to think about it. Once you establish those colors, the most important thing you can do is be sure to use them exactly. Don't just pick the closest color because it was easier. That is not going to help you. Use the right color, and if you use it all the time, you'll probably end up shouting hex codes in your sleep like me. RevU Blue is 00B1DA. Okay, and lastly, what's really important is to use all of that great work you've already done in your core messaging document, which is what Rebecca just talked about, to find imagery that really matches your brand's tone. It's not important that you have the same subject in every single photo or image you use, but it is important that you have a tone, you're intentional about it, and you weave it through all of your brand's imagery. That's the reason that you can identify a target ad even without the logo. Okay, so once you've made all of these design decisions, a really great way to keep track of them is in something called a brand guide. And if you haven't heard of that before, it's basically just a way to take all of this information and put it in one document that you can refer back to later or share with people you're working with so that they can help you maintain your brand consistency. So that's great, but it's probably hard to think about this stuff early on, to be really intentional about it. Why do we want to do that? Why is that important? Well, the first reason is it helps your company be more predictable. Maybe that sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. You want your potential customers to be able to predict if they fit in and engage with your brand. It's just like Rebecca was saying, that your vibe attracts your tribe. Okay, so people need to recognize if they'll fit in with your brand. It also makes your company more dependable. If I've discovered your product, now I'm able to discover it, I'm able to find it again, I'm able to see your branding and recognize that your products or services are going to be reliable for me. And last, good branding can just be really memorable. There are so many fun ways, little visual cues that you can tie in and weave throughout everything you do to make your company stand out above the rest. You might think you see like 10, 20 ads in a day. I don't know. What do you think you see? 10, 20, something like that? Well, studies show that it's actually more in the thousands. So that's a lot of noise to rise above, and this is one really good way to do that. Okay, the best way I've found to promote brand consistency early on is to not treat your brand like it's an abstract object. It's not just like kind of this amorphous thing, right? Treat it instead like it's a living, breathing thing. Okay, you want to protect your brand. You want to talk about it with your team members. It's going to be evolving in the beginning. You're going to make changes. Maybe you're even going to switch your logo in the beginning. That's okay. You just need to make sure that you're being intentional about it. A good brand is such a strong asset. Think about Apple. Where would they be without their branding? And my argument is not anywhere, probably. Okay, so we're all on the same page. We think good design is probably important. It's going to be an investment, whether that's in time or in money. But good design doesn't have to cost a fortune. If you're a DIYer, there are a lot of great tools you can use and take advantage of. There are free ones like Canva or even different Google products. You can get away and do a lot of things. You can build letterhead in Google Docs that looks awesome, okay? And that's free. There are also some programs you can invest in like Sketch or Adobe Illustrator. If you're not looking to do it yourself, tap into your network. If you have a founder friend who you've noticed they have great branding, go ask them where they got it done. Ask if they'd be willing to share their designer's information. You can also reach out to your local college, their design department, and try and find some students who might be able to help you. Or you can ask your nephew who happens to do it if he'd be willing to help you create your logo, your branding on the side. Okay, if you're looking for a freelancer, there are a lot of great online websites where you can find some freelancers for pretty good deals. There are some really creative people there, and they can help you get started. One thing to certainly be aware of if you're going to go this route is that you're probably going to end up using lots of different freelancers or contractors, and you're going to want to think about investing in a brand guide up front so that you can send it to all of the different people who are working on your collateral. That's going to help it feel really consistent. Okay, really quick, I just want to highlight someone who I think is a great example of this. Dan, are you here? Okay, that's Dan. Okay, this is Dan. He's the CEO of Zion. He's awesome. He's such a good example of protecting your brand. He's constantly thinking about how things like what he's wearing might resonate with a potential customer. All these little details you might not normally think about, he's like got running in his mind, okay? And I'm so excited about that. That's awesome. He's even thought about how the car he drives up to a sales meeting in could be a brand asset for him. So he found this awesome BMW i8 that we're all super jealous of, and you might see rolling around Rev Road sometimes. And he crafted some messaging to wrap the car in. I got to help him with the design, and he's going to be taking this to a convention in Reno later this month. I think it's really going to help attract attention to his booth. People are going to be coming over, taking pictures. It's going to be his target market that he wants, just like crowding him, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. So once you have your brand basics established, those things we talked about, your logo, your type, your color palettes, those kinds of things, there are so many fun and engaging ways you can really start to leverage it within other aspects of your marketing. I'm going to turn it back to AJ to talk about how to really get creative with this.
Aren't they awesome? They're so great, huh? So now we're at the stage where we need to get creative. So we've defined our market, our target audience. We've got great branding and our tone of voice. Now we need to get creative, okay? So how do we do that? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but first we have to understand what we have to accomplish. First we have to know our why. What is our why with our product? You know, Colin, what's our why with My Roadmap? What is our why with Allegra, with all these different companies that we're working with, and with yours, right? And then what are you trying to do with your company? Where do you want to go with it? What emotions do you want to inspire? Is it fear? Is it fun? Is it sarcasm? Is it excitement? Is it you're awesome? I mean, what inspirational maybe? What is the the action or the emotions you want to inspire with your brand? Okay. What action do you want them to take? Most of the time, it's purchasing, right? We all like money here, right? Raise your hand if you like money. Yes, okay. So usually we want them to convert. However, sometimes it's a different ask. Maybe it's signing up for our newsletter or getting additional discounts. It varies on a case-by-case basis. And then, when will your message be most important? Is it when they're on the way to the gym? Is it when they're at the office, going to the kids' soccer games? Is it driving in their car? When is the message going to be most impactful? So these are questions you have to ask, okay? Then, let's actually, before we talk about that, let's look at an example, a couple of them actually, where companies that needed a brand refresh or a brand kickoff, this is how they did it creatively. And this is, the first one is Old Spice. And Old Spice was having a challenge because it's grandpa's cologne, right? It's just really old and stodgy, not very cool at all. So what they did is they went out and got new spokespeople and refreshed their packaging and their look and their feel. This is an example of how they took their brand to a new level. Thank you.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamonds. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
So anything is possible when you're on a horse, right? The next example we want to talk about is the Got Milk campaign. And there are Got parodies all over our country. We can't stop hearing about them, right? But in California, the dairy farmers got together and said, hey, the soda industry, the beverage industry is super overcrowded. It's killing us. We got to have people drinking more milk. So the premise was if people drink more milk, they'll be superheroes. So they got Wolverine to do one and many, many others. The results were astounding. Milk sales increased in California 7% in 1 year, which is a lot of milk, right? There's a lot of people in California. And then it took off and went nationwide. So another great creative example of how to boost your product or your brand. This is a fun one. We talk about this one a lot here at RevRoad. When Virgin Airways were just getting started, they wanted to be in the Super Bowl because they felt like, okay, the Super Bowl is where our demographic is. We want to promote, but we don't have millions of dollars to spend to get a commercial. So what they decided to do is build a blimp. You see it right here. And they went to the networks and said, hey, if we fly our blimp over, will you shoot your cameras at our blimp? And the network said, no way, you got to pay to play, we're not doing it. So they got their painters together and painted, NBC cameramen are the sexiest men alive, on the blimp and flew it over the stadium. And when the crowd went crazy, guess where every camera went? Right to the blimp, right? Fantastic exposure for Virgin Atlantic. So the next example we want to talk about is Coke. And Coke, like Old Spice, has to constantly refresh and become relevant again in the market, especially where there's a lot of health concerns now with soda and things of that nature. So what they decided to do in Australia is try a new marketing campaign where they would personalize the cans of Coke. So the idea was when you went to the Coke machine or the store, you would hopefully get your name on a Coke bottle. And if you didn't, you would share it with the person on whose name it was, because oftentimes you'll know that person or whatever. And it actually went really well, so well that they moved it to America, and we've all seen it. It was fantastic and did super, super great for them. So get creative, okay? How do we do it? Well, first of all, ask around. This is a great group to ask around. Talk about ideas. Talk about what you can do to make your brand pop. The next one is brainstorm. And one rule with brainstorming is when you get together, if it's yourself, then get together with yourself, or if you have a team, right? Brainstorm and come up with ideas of what you can do to be more creative. The rule, though, is that if you come up with any idea, stupid or not, you got to put it on the board, because a lot of times stupid ideas lead to awesome ideas, okay? Crowdsourcing is another way you can get ideas to be creative. Read marketing news. There's all sorts of ideas in the marketing literature and things out there online and elsewhere. Look at your competitors, look at your competition, see what they're doing. Listen, there's a lot going on. Just listen around the market. Watch your brands of choice. They may do something that's awesome that you can mimic for your brand. And then look to the past. You never know when a vintage article or a vintage ad could spark something in your mind and think, oh, that could work for my brand or for my product or service. So now that we've talked about our audience and we talked about branding and our tone and our messaging, we've talked about being creative. Now we have to execute, because honestly, if we don't execute, none of this is going to happen. It's all fun ideas. So let's talk about how we do that. There's 5 steps, really. First, you have to identify your overall goal and your opportunities. You need to get your team or yourself, if you're running a one-man show for now, with the same vision. You all have to be on the same page, okay? Identify market opportunities, big and small, and your core competencies. Not all of you are going to have an amazing designer or an amazing writer on staff or a fantastic web designer, and that's okay. Focus on what you have and go out and find what you don't and complement your team, okay? And then, so important, look at your customer journey or your experience end to end. What would it feel like as a customer to purchase from you? And that's what you want your marketing to gear towards, okay? Step number 1. Step number 2, create your marketing strategies. So look at your audience, determine what they would want, determine your goals and objectives, the channels that you want to promote your company to, metrics on how to gauge whether you're successful or not, and then the hard one, budget, right? We got to determine what we can spend and where. Unfortunately, none of us here have an unlimited budget for marketing, although we would love that if you did. Okay, step number 3, break down your strategies into tactics, okay? The way you do this is you have to determine tasks that need to be done, obviously, and make sure that each task has a single owner and a deadline, so you know when it has to be done, and then clear, measurable results. And this is so critical because so many times we hear, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and there's no result. You can't measure them. It's great ideas, but you have to be able to measure what you're doing. Okay, step 4 on execution. Make your processes repeatable. And I know this is going to be a little sticky with some, okay? Marketing is creative, right? However, if you have workflows and templates, you have less setup, you have, the work will slip through the cracks much less, and you have fewer mistakes, so that in the end, you can be more creative and you can have more confidence in the process. So what you can standardize, do, okay? And an example of that really quick would be, an email template, right? That you can just templatize and send to a lot of your audience, and things of that nature to where you're not recreating every time. Number 5, know where the work stands all the time. And this is important, so you have status updates on where your marketing activities are, key dates of deadlines and things you have to hit, milestones of when you can reach certain levels, and then you want to work in a centralized tool of some sort. That might be a project management system. It might be an Excel spreadsheet, but make sure it's transparent and visible to your whole team so you can see where you're at with your marketing all the time, okay? And then this slide, and we've got a handout here, and I think Elisa's going to hand it out so you can look at it. This slide shows a lot of the different marketing campaign types that are available. Overwhelming, right? There's a lot of them. But it's so cool because there's so many ways you can get to your target audience. There's pay-per-click marketing and brand marketing, guerrilla marketing, mobile marketing, cause marketing, relationship marketing, and the list goes on. We don't have time to talk about all of them. And a lot of them you've probably used. Some you may not have. And there's a lot of research on each one of them on Google that you can research. But use different campaign types if the one you're using is not working as well as you'd hope. And some will work better for certain industries than others. And find that best marketing mix, okay? So because the world is so digital, we wanted Scott to talk a little bit more about digital marketing and how to be successful in that space. So Scott, we'll have you come on up to the stage.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Okay. All right, that is working. Wonderful. Awesome. How you guys doing? Learning something? Yeah. Awesome. Good. Okay, so we wanted to spend just a minute talking about building your brand online. Who's working on this right now? Webs, mobile, social. Raise a hand. Who's working on this? Okay, looks like about half. Awesome. Okay, if you're working on this or if you have worked on this, how many of you, show of hands, feel like you have a good handle on this for your business? okay? How many of you feel kind of totally overwhelmed by this at this point? Okay, all right, so maybe some parts of it, not others. That's great, that's awesome. So let's just talk, why do we even care about being online, right? Four things to think about. Number one, be where the people are. I was gonna try to figure out a way to put the Little Mermaid here, I wanna be where the people are and all this, but I couldn't find a good enough GIF for it. You guys probably have better ones. All right, visibility and reach for your business. Establishing credibility. People expect to find you online and on their phone. And creating a sense of community around the products and services that you offer as a way to engage your audience and increase your sales, but also as a way to get feedback about your products and your services and make things better as you move forward. So here's a few rules of thumb for working in the online space. Keep it simple. Right? You don't need to have dozens and dozens and dozens of pages on your website. You don't need to have an app with hundreds of features. You don't need 4 different social network accounts all doing, this fire hose of content marketing and new videos every week. You need to find, bite-sized information. You want to quickly give your users the information that they really want at the moment that they need it. People move fast online, and you don't want people to feel like they have to really stop and think about your messaging before they can interact with your brand. You want to keep it consistent, just as we've been talking about with Rebecca and Katie, the brand messaging docs all that thinking that you've put into it. Keep that going online. Use the same fonts, use the same logos, use the same colors, use the same messaging. Be engaging. Think about this. I heard this the other week. People don't want to buy your product. They want to buy a better version of themselves. How can you engage people on that idea or other ideas like that? How can you talk to people and get them thinking about the meaningful place that your business has in their lives? And then fourth thing is, keep it interactive. Online is not like a billboard. Putting up a website, having a Facebook account, this isn't a static thing. You should think of your brand in the online space as a room for people to come into, a space for them to interact with you and interact with others. You want people participating in the story of your brand as it goes on. We could have an entire workshop on how to build a great website. In the time that we have, I just wanted to give you guys a peek into the tools that we use. If this is helpful for you, please take a picture of it. These are tools that we have used, that we have experience with, that we've had a good experience with. There's lots of tools out there for building great websites, but these are the ones that are that exist at RevRoad. Okay. Awesome. Let's talk about mobile apps. Who's working on a mobile app? Okay, a handful. If you aren't working on a mobile app, there are still ways to get mobile to be part of your business. I want to just quickly look at four of those. 4 little examples. Making a task easier. This is an approach that Walgreens took. Walgreens has this sort of corner store kind of business or whatever. So when they made an app, rather than making it sort of a marketplace for ordering their products, they said, all right, let's just focus on one thing that people, is kind of a pain point for people. So they made an app that lets you scan the barcode on your prescriptions and get your medications refilled quicker. Awesome. People use it, they come to Walgreens, they buy more stuff while they're there. Heineken took the approach of making a branded experience. They made an app where you and your friend download this app. It puts a picture of the product on the screens. You tap your phones together, and it makes the clinking sound of a beer glass. Honestly, not huge in functionality, but it made a fun little branded experience and got people thinking about the business and making it a more memorable experience. REI, an outdoor outfitter, took the approach of providing some value to the people as they engage in the activities that REI supports. They made an app that just updates you on weather conditions, whether you're at a ski resort or out hiking, whatever. This app keeps you up to date. If you don't have the time and resources to make an app right now, at least spend some time making sure your website is mobile friendly. This is so important. If you haven't done this in a while, open your website on your phone, see how it looks. If you're going to spend any time on mobile, spend it here to make sure your website just looks awesome on the phone. Okay, we'll talk social media just for a minute. I'm going to put these 4 things up. So for those of you who said, kind of overwhelming, maybe not, I'm maybe guessing social media is one of those overwhelming areas. Social media is a full-time job. It really can be. So here's just a few ideas for how to make it a little bit more manageable. Number one, treat different networks individually, or to say it a little bit different, use different social networks for different things. Instagram's very, visuals and photo heavy. Facebook has events and information about your business. Snapchat is quick and fun, and these kinds of things. And then YouTube, of course, for videos. Have a different sort of sub-strategy for each social network, so that you don't feel like you have to be posting the same thing in on every network all the time. Being social. The temptation on social media is to use it like a megaphone to promote your stuff 24/7. And you don't want to do that. People want to get to know you on social media at a more personal level. Ask questions. Talk about the people behind the scenes of your product and your company. Dove launched a campaign where, Dove that sells, body wash and soap and stuff, launched a campaign where they had women come in, and an artist would, without seeing the woman, describe what the artist would draw what she looked like according to her description of herself. Then they would have a second person come in and describe to the artist what they thought that woman looked like. And it was so interesting for the women to see this difference of how they viewed themselves versus how others view them. And it was just a really human-focused campaign. It didn't really have anything to do about their products, but it was able to show that Dove, cares about making this meaningful relationship about how you see yourself and how other people see you. And it was really a very viral campaign. It was viewed millions of times. Going along with that, JetBlue launched a campaign. Their approach was timing is everything. Paying attention to the real-time events and holidays and other things that are happening in real people's lives day to day. April Fool's Day, they offered a free flight to anyone named April. All right, so everyone on social media is who knows someone named April is sharing this ad with them, saying, "Hey, go get a free flight." Really creative and good. The fourth thing to do with social media is pay attention to the emerging trends in social media. It's a fast-moving industry. There's new things, new features, new trends all the time. Right now, we're definitely seeing stories on Instagram rising in popularity. They're actually set to overtake traditional posts in the news feed next year in terms of engagement. Influencers and influencer marketing is a way to connect with your audience going through a personality that they already trust. And live video is also something that is on the rise right now in social media. So it definitely existing online, maintaining a strong digital presence can be overwhelming, but remember to keep it simple, be consistent, be engaging, and keep it interactive, and you're going to do fine. Thanks. Back to you, AJ.
Fantastic. Okay, well, our time is short, so let's finish up. There are several tools if you want to know more about them and ways to help you execute your marketing plans. This is a one-pager. It has unicorns, so it's fun, right? My 7-year-old would love it. So ways to know who your audience is, how you differentiate, your platform, and it's very simple because it's a one-pager. Fantastic tool. Another one we use here at RevU that could help your company is the Pragmatic Marketing Framework, a way to design and build your products and services to what the market wants and then deploy them. But one of the things if you learn nothing else in this presentation, going viral is not a marketing strategy. I know it sounds cool and sexy and fun, but honestly, we get so many entrepreneurs that come in and say, "Hey, my product is amazing, it's going to go viral, we're good." And honestly, going viral is harder than becoming an NBA superstar. So even though that's the goal and we want to get you there, have realistic expectations that going viral, if it happens, there are so many stars that have to align to make that happen that it's just not very likely. Very cool though. Marketing isn't free, but it can be cheap. Gone are the days when you have to spend so much money on billboards and TV campaigns to make your product go. With a simple creative YouTube video, your product can take off. So make sure you're getting an ROI on your marketing spend. And then if you're not testing, you're running in the dark. So anything you do, create double versions and test to see which campaign is getting more conversion than the other, and use that one, because then you're getting to your path to marketing much more clearly And everything is always being tested. Marketing is never perfect, and you're just constantly building and rebuilding to what your market wants. So to recap, know your audience, create branding and messaging that's awesome for your audience, get creative with your branding and messaging, and execute. And if you do this, your company will be a star. Let's show you what that looks like when you put it all together with one of the most boring products on the market, plumbing. This is how they did it, and they did amazing. So they focused on their audience and what their audience wanted. So on behalf of the RevRoad marketing team, the entire Schlermuth team here at RevRoad HQ headquarters, we're so happy to be here today. Hope you learned something, and we're going to turn the stage back over to Darren.